thought I'd... This isn't planned. None of this is planned. I just found out that I can go live on mobile. So that's cool. Let me see if I can figure something out. See if I like share. If I can pull this up at work with split screen. So is it not? So I'm live. Cool. What's up? What you doing? The laundry? I'm doing laundry today. I just found out I can go live on mobile now. It used to be 1,000 subscribers you need, but you only needed 50. So look at me, doing big things. Ow, 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 my fingers. I can go live on mobile now. How cool is that? Anyway, this is a spontaneous thing. It's nothing planned out. I can go live, yes. Yes, ma'am. How cool is that? It's a privilege for YouTube creators. Anywho, we got some videos that I just finished editing. I'm going to be putting them out. It's a pretty funny stuff. The New World Order translations. So basically the concept is these modern versions are springboarding the believer to worship the Antichrist and go into this one world government through the modern translations, which is pretty crazy. Every time that new translations say New Order, they're like, see, this is the Antichrist talking about the New Order and how they're going to reign in the new kingdom. So we go through every verse. It's basically a hour and 45 minute movie that I threw in the editor, chopped down till about 20 minutes. So it's going to be a four-part series because I don't want anybody sitting through with 2 hours of commentary. I mean, who would want to do that? So we broke it up into 30-minute increments. It's going to be pretty cool. Probably be putting them up in the next couple of days. I just got to get everything finished up and, all my links and resources. But this one is spontaneous. I just put it, let's hear of the Buddha. Who is the Buddha? And if you see on the thumbnail, he quotes that Gautama Buddha is a quote from him. You can search throughout the entire universe to someone who is more deserving of your love and affection than you are yourself. That person is not to be found anywhere. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. I believe that goes in with the Four Noble Truths. There's the main idea in Buddhism is the Four Noble Truths. The main teaching of the Buddha focuses not on philosophical speculations about a creator God. That's error one. Obviously, we're going to believe in the God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac of Israel, who brought forth his descendants to the line of Judah in order that Jesus would come and save his people from their sins to be the light of the nations. No, it's a, when the Buddha, they have a philosophical speculation against the creator God, or even the origin of the universe, or instead, even on heaven, or even the life after. The Buddha instead is centered down to earth reality of human suffering and the urgent need to find lasting relief from all forms of discontent. The Buddha gave the simile of a man shot by a poison-tipped arrow who, before he would call a doctor to treat him, demanded to know first who shot the arrow and where the arrow was made and of what and by whom and when and where. This foolish man would surely die before his questions could be well answered. In the same way, the Buddha said, the urgent need of our existence is to find lasting relief from recurrent suffering, which robs us of happiness and leaves us in strife. As the Christian worldview, we do believe that the world is suffering, and we believe sin is the problem. We believe the world's not perfect, and we never planned on being exempt from that. We find hope through Christ in the suffering. And I think that's the total difference. Where in Buddha, you're trying to escape the suffering, but in Christianity, you realize and the suffering. Why the suffering? Why Jesus came for the sufferers. Um, you know, it, we're not guaranteed happiness, and that's just any Christian that's saying that is not really being honest with you. You're not called by Christ to come into happiness and to be in fulfillment, even if it's that's how you've got your prosperity gospels and all that. But it says philosophical speculations are of secondary importance, and anyway, they are best left until after one has well trained the mind in meditation to the stage where one has the ability to examine the matter clearly and find the truth for oneself. So I guess Hitler could have found this truth. Mussolini could have found this truth. Stalin could have found this truth. Clearly, to find the truth for oneself. Or is, in the Christian worldview, the truth is that mankind has separated themselves from their Creator. And the Bible says God Himself is storing up wrath for the unrighteous. So as of this moment now, He's storing up wrath. And I really look at that as a very terrifying thing to think of, the Almighty God having final judgment on you, judging the world. We're all going to be judged, the righteous and unrighteous, but it's God's desire that none shall perish but come to repentance. But according to the Buddha, we clearly find the truth of oneself. So Hitler could have found his truth of oneself while burning millions of Jews during the Holocaust. So it's going to be a contradiction there. Thus, the central teachings of the Buddha, around which all of the teachings revolve, in the Four Noble Truths. So these are Four Noble Truths: that all forms of being, human and otherwise, are afflicted with suffering. Okay, I don't disagree with that. We're afflicted with suffering. 2, that the cause of this suffering is craving, born of the illusion of a soul. I don't see how that can defend itself when, to say we don't have a soul. Why do we paint pictures the way we do? Why are we touched by certain moments in life? Why are we simply just can't look at a sunset and say, wow, what a great combination of particles in the universe and in the sky? We're a little more complex than that. We can look at a sunset and remember a loved one. We will see the beauty of life. We can see the ugly things in life. We know the ugly things in life. We see them all the time on the news. Therefore, we can also see the great things of life. The touching, the moving things. You're watching a movie and you come to a very, very deep, intimate, emotional part of the movie, and it touches you. It touches your spirit, and that's the God gene, if you will, that every human being has, even the atheist who denies the fact of a God. But I don't think it's an illusion. I think it's clearly demonstrated throughout creation. In Romans 9, Paul talks about God has displayed His handiwork through His creation. We can look out and see His craftsmanship. You can look in the mountains. You can look at the trees. You look at the creatures He's made. You can say, if you're suppressing the truth when you say that all came from nothing and it was spontaneous and random, and so yeah, I could argue to the day I die that there is a soul for every human being. Number 3, that this suffering has a lasting end in the experience of enlightenment, the nibbana, which is the complete letting go of the illusion of soul and all consequent desire and aversion. Letting go. I mean, I guess in its context, letting go is different from the Buddha perspective. I don't see that it's the same as how we do it in the Western civilization. We don't, let everything go. Enlightenment, the illusion, that's just, I don't know. But then 4, that this peaceful and blissful enlightenment is achieved through a gradual training, a path that is called the middle way, or the Eightfold Path. It would be mistaken to label this teaching as pessimistic on grounds that it begins by centering on suffering. Rather, Buddhism is realistic in that it unflinchingly faces up to the truth of life's many sufferings, and it's optimistic in that it shows a final end of the problem of suffering, nibbana, enlightenment in this very life. Those who have achieved this ultimate peace are the inspiring examples who demonstrate once and for all that Buddhism is far from pessimistic, but it is a path to true happiness. I don't think the main motive of life is to be happy, in my perspective, in my worldview. Life is not about being happy because it's all circumstantial. We can be happy 1 minute and sad 1 minute, angry 1 minute. We can be meh 1 minute and not feel anything, and that's part of being a human being. And we shouldn't have to suppress and deny those things to seek happiness. And I think that's what the world loves. They hate the cross because what the cross does is condemn and bring that pride and that happiness to a halt. And it requires submission to the God-man who in his life led a perfect life. Follow the complete law of Moses. No corrupt thing came from his mouth. Any other religion recognizes Jesus as, they'll either say he's a high prophet, he is of God, he's a good teacher, he was a great person, he had these good ideas, he revolutionized, the ancient world and their philosophical ideas. Those are all parts of who he is, but, the Christian faith claims the incarnation. Incarnation is that the unique triune God of the universe came into his own creation in the human form of Jesus. That's what the radical Christians believe. And it's very, very different from just a teaching. It's more of a life, ministry, death, burial, resurrection, and ascension of Christ. It's not simply his teachings. He did love your neighbor, or love your enemy, pray for those who persecute you, forgive one another as God's forgiven you. Those are all good teachings that other religions have taken. But to look at the person of Jesus, the actual person of Jesus, my thing's going off. Even his prophecy of him being foretold before he came into the world, his ministry and how he came into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday riding a donkey, fulfilling a prophecy, his illegal trial in the middle of the night going against the law of Moses, to his actual crucifixion, how he was crucified, how he didn't break any bones, his burial next to he would live amongst the poor but be buried amongst the rich, how he chippers, thank you.
Yeah,
No one's watching. It's gonna be up later. No one's even watching, but it's gonna go up later. But even his burial and resurrection prophesied, and it's a belief. Can we put that in a test tube? Can I sit here and argue the Shroud of Turin and say, look, this is the actual cloth that wrapped Jesus up, and their scientists, for a long time they thought that was a 14th century forgery of this cloth, but now there's new tests saying, hey, this cloth is probably anywhere from 1300 to 3000 years old, and it fits the timeline of when Christ he died. The coins that were put on this face inside the Turin, it had the Pilate, it had Pontius Pilate's I guess writing on it, or whatever they call it, the Pilate coin. But even they can't recreate that image going through the cloth. They can't recreate that. They did an example of the Dallas Cowboys stadium. They turned all the lights on at one time. It said it would take this much power and radiation to go through that cloth the way it did. But people put their faith in stuff like that. I don't. I think the gospel account is plenty enough for me to believe, because it tackles the issue properly. It takes what sin is, it casts the sin on him. It doesn't excuse bad behaviors. It doesn't excuse the reality of the world. Jesus didn't come to revolutionize the world and overthrow the government, even though his followers thought he was going to do that. But he spoke of his kingdom. His kingdom was much different than what was going on in the ancient world. So let's go into a little bit more Buddha teachings. The Buddha remembered clearly many of his past lives. So reincarnation is the idea, the idea you die, come back. Bible says, once you're dead, you're absent from the body, present with the Lord. So there's a contradiction there. Even today, many Buddhist monks, nuns, and others also remember their past lives. I think that's purely suggestive. So you can't check them on that. So I recall my past life as a whatever. Oh, well, I mean, that's your belief. You can't substantiate that. You know what I mean? When a lot of people say, hey, can you prove that Jesus existed? Well, we have a lot of ancient artifacts that can clearly demonstrate. Most scholars across the board, secular and believing scholars, they will definitely attest to the fact that Jesus did die of crucifixion. So that's. And if you're saying, oh, we can't prove that, no one's, you're really not studying history. Philo, Josephus, there's a lot of, even in your Greek and Roman historians attested to Christ. But anyway, they remember their past life. Such a strong memory is a result of deep meditation. For those who remember their past life, rebirth is an established fact which puts this life in a meaningful perspective. It's an established fact, they say. The law of karma can only be understood in the framework of many lifetimes because it sometimes takes this long for karma to bear its fruit. Thus, karma and rebirth offer a plausible explanation to the obvious inequalities of birth. Why some are born into great wealth, whereas others are born into pathetic poverty. Why some children enter this world healthy and full-limbed, whereas others enter deformed and diseased. The fruits of bad karma are not regarded as a punishment for evil deeds, but as lessons from which to learn. For example, how much better to learn about the need for generosity than to be reborn among the poor. If that were true. Rebirth takes place not only within this human realm. The Buddha pointed out that the realm of human beings is but one among many. There are many separate heavenly realms and grim lower realms, too, realms of the animals and realms of the ghosts. Not only can human beings go to any of these realms in the next life, but we can come from any of these realms into our present life. This explains a common objection against rebirth that argues, how can there be rebirth when there are 10 times as many people alive today than there were 50 years ago? The answer is that people alive today have come from many different realms. Nicodemus came up to Jesus and said, I know you are a good rabbi. You are one who shows the works of God. How does one become righteous with God? He said, truly, truly, I say to you, unless a man is born again, he cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. So now we have two conflating claims here. In the Buddha, you are reincarnated from either a past life, or you go in between different realms. And well, obviously they're claiming that it's proof, You get 10, there's 10 times many people alive today than there are 50 years ago. People alive today have come from many different realms. So you die, you're born again. You die, you're born again. You die, you're born again. Yada, yada, so forth, so forth. So Jesus said, truly, truly, I say to you, unless a man is born again, he cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. And Nicodemus says, how can one be born again? Do we enter the mother's womb and come out for a second time? He said, unless a man is born of the Spirit and water, he is not, he cannot be born again. Spiritual sense. Jesus did not mean literally born again. And that's a complete contradiction to one another. What the Buddha believes is that, they don't hold to any traditions, but they accept all ways of life. And that's the problem, because they can't accept what Christians believe, because they can't go hand in hand. They contradict one another. One's saying we get reincarnated, the other one's saying you're born again of the Spirit and water. So from a critical standpoint, the Buddha can't hold its own weight because, for one, they're saying they're welcoming to every idea. They don't hold to one idea, but the idea of Christianity would contradict what they believe, so they can't substantiate. Um, do Buddhists believe that a supreme being created the universe? Buddhists would first ask, what universe do you mean? Okay, this present universe, from the moment of the Big Bang up to now, is but one among countless millions in Buddhist cosmology. So there's countless millions in Buddhist cosmology. The Big Bang. So therefore, the Big Bang doesn't. It doesn't. It kind of puts them in the atheist realm because of the Big Bang. We don't have a creator. We don't have. Um, sorry. You don't have a creator. You have baseless assumptions. One of the countless million Buddhist cosmologies. The Buddha gave an estimate of the age of a single universe cycle around 37 million years, which is quite plausible when compared to modern astrophysics. After one universe cycle ends, another begins, again and again, according to impersonal law. A creator God is redundant in this scheme. No being is a supreme savior, according to the Buddha, because whether God, human, animal, or whatever, all are subject to the law of karma. Even the Buddha had no power to save. He could only point out the truth so that the wise could see it for themselves. Everyone must take responsibility for their own future well-being, and it's dangerous to give that responsibility to another. That's why Christ is good enough. He checks the boxes. If we're doing an interview, he fits all the requirements. In this worldview, the Buddha doesn't even have the power to save. So why would you want to worship the Buddha? It does not have the power to save. When I can claim that Christ does have the power to save. When the apostles are bowing down before him, and he says, "Who do you say that I am?" You are the Savior. You are the Messiah. You are the Son of the living God. Thomas calls him that. The Samaritan woman at the well, she realized this. So to not have a saving faith, I think, is what's the point of not having a saving faith? Now you are the ultimate authority. And you got to ask yourself, have I made mistakes? By what moral standard can you do that? I wouldn't want to trust myself in my faith. I don't believe, if I'm going to, why even have a religion? It's more of a it's a narcissistic system. Pretty crazy stuff. Very narcissistic. The illusion of the soul. So as I go on, the illusion of the soul. The Buddha taught that there is no soul, no essential and permanent core to a living being. Instead, that which we call a living being, human or other, can be seen to be but a temporary coming together of many activities and parts. When complete, it is called a living being, but after the parts separate and the activity cease, it is not called a living being anymore. Like any advanced computer assembled of many parts and activities, only when it is complete and performed coherent tasks, it is called a computer. But after the parts are disconnected and the activities cease, it is no longer called a computer. No essential permanent core can be found, which we can truly call the computer. Just so, no essential permanent core can be found, which we can call the soul. Yet rebirth still occurs without a soul. Consider this simile. On a Buddhist shrine, one candle, burnt low, is about to expire. A monk takes a new candle and lights it from the old. The old candle dies, the new candle burns bright. What went across from the old candle to the new? There was a casual link, but no thing went across. In the same way, there was a casual link between your previous life and your present life. But no soul has gone across. Instead, the illusion of a soul is said by the Buddha to be a root cause of all human suffering. The illusion of soul manifests as the ego. The natural unstoppable function of the ego is to control. Big egos want to control the world. Average egos try to control their immediate surroundings of home, family, and workplace. And almost all egos strive to control what they take to be their own body and mind. Such control manifests as desire and aversion. It results in a lack of both inner peace and outer harmony. It is this ego that speaks to acquire possessions, manipulate others, and exploit the environment. It aims Its aim is its own happiness, but it invariably produces suffering. It craves for satisfaction, but it experiences discontent. Such deep-rooted suffering cannot come to an end until one sees, though deep and powerful meditation, that the idea me and mind is no more than a mirage. A lot said there. I mean, I can't even go. That's a lot there. The illusion of the soul. So the soul is the root of all human suffering. I thought sin was. Sin is the root. Disobedience. Disobedience to God's law is the root of all human suffering. The illusion of soul manifests as the ego. It's an illusion. The unnatural, unstoppable fiction of the ego is to control. Not when you come to Christ. You don't want to control. You want to serve, and you want to love others. Big egos want to control the world. Average egos try to control their immediate surroundings of home, family, and workplace, and almost all egos strive to control what they take to be their own body and mind. I don't know what that to be their own body and mind, but I think unbelievers and people that don't know God can do the same thing. My argument's better, but to see this as an illusion, no, this is a reality. People have this mind state. Such control manifests as desire and aversion. It results in a lack of both inner peace and outer harmony. We don't need inner peace and outer harmony. God gives us peace. God gives us peace in our soul. See, if you don't have a soul, you can't have peace. But it's a contradicting statement how they say that they're striving for peace, but you don't have a soul. So where does the peace come into your mind? The mind is you're convincing yourself. Our bodies are more than just our mind. Such control manifests as a desire and aversion. It results in a lack of both inner peace and outer harmony. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. It is this ego that seeks to acquire possessions, manipulate others, and exploit the environment. It aims is its own happiness, but it invariably produces suffering. The system doesn't work. The system doesn't work. You have to have a soul in order to have peace. Peace of the mind. You can only have peace of mind for a certain amount of time. The Bible talks about the peace that surpasses all understanding. That would be in your soul. So the kindness, loving, and meditation. Loving kindness meditation. Loving kindness is a meditation practice which brings about positive attitudinal changes as it systematically develops the quality of loving acceptance. It acts as if it were as a form of psychotherapy, a way of healing the troubled mind to free it from its pain and confusion. Of all the Buddhist meditations, loving kindness has the immediate benefit of sweetening and changing old habituated negative patterns of mind. To put it in its context, loving kindness is the first of a series of meditations that produces 4 qualities of love: friendliness, metta, compassion, karuna, appreciation, joy, which is mudita, and equanimity, upekkha. The quality of friendliness is expressed as warmth that reaches out and embraces others. When loving kindness practice is mature, it naturally overflows its compassion, as one emphasized with other people's difficulties. On the other hand, one needs to be wary of pity. Excuse me. As its near enemy, as its mere mimics the quality of concern. Without empathy, the positive expression of empathy is an appreciation of other people's good qualities or good fortune, or appreciative joy rather than feelings of jealousy towards them. How to do it? So that's how you do it. The practice always begins with developing a loving acceptance of yourself. Love yourself. So yourself. If resistance is experienced, then it indicates that feelings of unworthiness are present. Okay? No matter. This means there is work to be done, as the practice itself is designed to overcome any feelings of self-doubt or negativity. then you are ready to systematically develop loving kindness towards others. 4 types of persons to develop loving kindness towards: a respected, beloved person, such as a spiritual teacher, a dearly beloved, a close family member or friend, a neutral person, somebody you know but have no special feelings towards, person who serves you in a shop, a hostile person, someone who you are currently having difficulty with. Starting with yourself, then systematically sending loving kindness from a person to person in the above order will have the effect of breaking down the barriers between the 4 types of people in yourself. This will have the effect of breaking down the divisions within your own mind, the sources of much of the conflict we experience. Just a word of caution: if you are practicing intensively, it is best if you choose a member of the same sex, or if you have a sexual bias to your own sex, a person of the opposite sex. This is because of the risk that the near enemy of loving kindness, lust, can be aroused. Try different people to practice on, as some people do not easily fit into the above categories, but do try to keep on the prescribed order. Ways of arousing feelings of loving kindness: visualization. Bring up a mental picture. See yourself or the person the feeling is directed at smiling back at you, or just being joyous. By reflection, reflect on the positive qualities of a person and the acts of kindness they have done. And to yourself, making an affirmation and positive statement about yourself using your own words. Auditory. This is the simplest way, but probably the most effective. Repeat an internalized mantra or phrase such as loving kindness. The visualization, the reflections, and the repetition of loving kindness are devices to help you arouse positive feelings of loving kindness. You can use all of them or one that works best for you. When the positive feeling arises, switch from the device to the feeling, as it is the feeling that is the primary focus. Keep the mind fixed on the feeling. If it strays, bring it back to the device, or if the feelings weaken or are lost, then return to the device, i.e. use the visualization to bring back or strengthen the feeling. So on and so on. Do they never address the issue of why the world is the way it is? What is the answer? The answer is Christ. Why is the answer Christ? Because he came into this world, lived a sinless life, followed the Mosaic law that clearly can be demonstrated existed. It's not a baseless assumption. It's not. There is a nation of Israel. There are Jewish people. There's the descendants of Judah down to the line of Jesus, who clearly existed in history. And if that resurrection is true, one that dies in Buddha, one that dies and comes back as something else, is totally dismantled, because the one that died rose again. And Paul knew this when he was speaking to the culture in his time. They were loving all those teachings. You can take Jesus' teachings out of context and put it in Buddha, but you can't fit the actual historical character inside of Buddha, because it contradicts everything Buddha talks about. So, yeah, very interesting stuff. All right, come check out the videos. I'm going to upload them in the next couple of days. So, God bless.